Hi, my name is Jennifer Garcia-Villa. I'm 16 years old and I go to Design Science Middle College High School, and the name of my documentary is Immigrants in America. Some of my family members have been immigrants before, so it hits very close home to me, and so I was like, why not delve deeper into immigration and see how being an immigrant affects immigrants in America. I am taking a Chicano Latino Studies class, so through that I learned more about immigration, and then I was like, this is actually really cool. And so then I started thinking about what other projects I could do with it, and because I had signed up to this, it was like, well, this is probably a really good opportunity to delve deeper, and especially because it is connected to my family, it is more personal, and I thought it would be really interesting to see exactly how it is being an immigrant in America and what solutions there are to their situation. Personally, I think the media doesn't really talk about what it's like being an immigrant in America, and when it is, it's not really brought up to the surface as often as it should be. So even in schools, it's not really talked about. So there is kind of a lack of awareness in the community of exactly what immigrants go through, even though they are a minority. It's not really okay, they are, but what issues exactly do they face? I hope people are able to kind of think about it and more, and go home and want to search up what exactly do immigrants go through, especially because there are so many misconceptions in the media, and that they either learn how the misconceptions are incorrect, or get inspired to go home and help change how the system works towards immigrants and impact their lives as well.
I think first and foremost is that people need to realize that the journey to come to the United States is very dangerous and treacherous and scary. And I think that as a parent, we have to put ourselves in the light as a parent and as just an individual even, because some of these people are not always coming with children. But if you're coming just as an individual, if that is the only choice you have left, is to go through this dangerous, treacherous, terrible journey, and sometimes, even go through kidnapping and rape and harm, but that's your only choice. Imagine what the life conditions are like in their home country for them to have to make that choice, if they feel that this is the only choice they have left. And so I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We just think, oh, well, people just want to come to the United States. Okay, but why? Why do they want to come to the United States? What is happening in their home countries that they feel the need to escape, and they feel this is their only option? And I feel that sometimes if we had a little bit more empathy, we could solve problems in a better, more sympathetic way. Because I really don't think that the majority of people are just coming to the United States for fun or just to try it out. Many of them understand that the immigration process here is difficult. Many of them understand that life here in the United States is difficult as well. And many of them know that if they are going to make the journey, they could potentially end in death. I mean, thousands of immigrants die each year trying to come to the United States. And yet that's a risk that they're willing to take because their living conditions wherever they're from are so terrible that they need to escape them. And I really think that people don't understand that. I think that if they did, and they did some research on these things, that maybe they would try to come to the table and find solutions for immigrants who are seeking refuge in the United States.
The media portrays immigrants as these horrible terrorists that are just trying to steal jobs and create crime and things like that. But I really think that a more realistic version would just be that they're people coming from other countries. They may have political issues or poorness or wars or other things going on that they need to get away from, so they come to America because they think that it's better.
Families often have to make the decision between feeding their children or paying their fees to come to the U.S.
They're just treated really poorly. by people and the government and everything. And I really think that the better way of dealing with it is making it easier to get citizenship once you're here and before, because it's really difficult for people to get citizenship because you have to pass a test that has questions that most Americans can't even answer, and it's a lot of fees and a lot of time that some people don't have to wait.
There is really no basic process, unfortunately, and I think that that's a huge misconception in the media and just in the community in general. Is like, all you have to do is fill out this paper and you'd be fine. That's not true. Everybody's case is so different, and it depends on the biographics of that person's case and their immigration history, and sometimes their criminal history, because nobody's perfect, so to speak, and there are times where people have committed crimes that have an impact on their immigration ability and their ability to become residents or citizens. And so there is no one size fits all. It really depends on the facts of that person's case and on whether or not they have family members in the United States who are US citizens or residents, whether that person entered legally or illegally, and whether maybe that person has been, say, the victim of a crime, or if that person has been the victim of trafficking, or if that person has a child who has served, a child or a spouse who has served in the US Armed Forces in the military. So all of these types of facts will play into account onto whether or not a person can become ultimately a resident. So there is no one size fits all. And for many people, there are no remedies available. And so sometimes they consult with me and they want me to help. But unfortunately, with the laws how they are in the United States, sometimes even if someone has been here 20 years or 30 years, even if they have a perfectly clean, stellar record with not even so much as a traffic ticket, even sometimes in cases like that, there's nothing that I can do because the laws of the United States don't allow for that person to have a pathway to residency or citizenship. The mission of the New American Legal Clinic is twofold. So the first mission of the New American Legal Clinic is to train law students in the practice of law. So each year we have students who are enrolled at San Joaquin College of Law who are seeking that practical experience and want to make a positive impact in their community. And so it's my job as their professor and as the director of the New American Legal Clinic to train them on how to work a case from start to finish. And then the second part is, of course, infusing these great resources into the community. So we are grant funded and we're part of a bigger grant referral network. There are lots of organizations here in the Central Valley that cross-refer. So say that Education Leadership Foundation doesn't have the capacity or the resources or the ability to take on a case, they might refer that client to us at the New American Legal Clinic and vice versa. I also do a lot of media because I want the clients to know that we are here willing and able to help them and that our services are completely free of charge. We also do a lot of word of mouth. So a lot of our clients who have successfully obtained services through our program tell their friends and tell their family, and that's how we're able to really continue to grow the clinic and spread the word. We've become quite popular, and so our services are pretty booked up, but we do have a waiting list, or you're able to get an appointment within a few weeks if people are willing to wait for us to be able to serve their case. 2 years ago, I helped somebody who was reaching their 100th birthday become a US citizen. And before that, you may have heard in the news of a father who was detained while taking his children to school. And we successfully have gotten that dad out on a bond, and he's fighting his case before immigration. It's honestly just such a fantastic feeling. There's really no words that I can use to describe the feeling of helping someone obtain a lifelong dream. A lot of times I don't even think that the client themselves realizes how much they've had to overcome and achieve in order to be in this position. But we often have clients that cry at their citizenship ceremonies or just become really emotional because they're overwhelmed with the feeling of finally feeling American, even though many of them have been here all of their lives, but now they can legally say that they're American and get to reap some of the benefits from all of the hard work that they've put into this country. And so, I mean, honestly, if I had to choose a word, I would probably say that the feeling is euphoric, because it's just like such a huge high to know that me and my team have made such a positive impact, not only on this individual, but on generations to come from their lives as well, you know, from their children and then maybe their grandchildren and so on and so forth. It's just a really great feeling. I feel that there is a lot of misconception and there is a lot of false information, and there's become a negative rhetoric because in the prior administration, under the Trump administration, immigrants felt like the enemy. Anything that an immigrant did was highlighted negatively. And the president himself would make slurs against immigrants, saying that people from El Salvador were gang members or people from Mexico were rapists and criminals, generalizing the immigrant population. And even with COVID-19, saying things like the China virus, which I'm not a Chinese immigrant, but I can only imagine how people from China felt being blamed for something that they really had no control over, of course. And so I think that there is just a lot of misconception about immigrants in general because of the way that the last 4 years immigrants were in the media through the highest level, the highest official, the president, how he was portraying immigrants. And so I think that that fed people sort of the wrong message, and it really did a lot of harm because immigrants felt like they had a target on their back, and many of them still do. And then there's the second part of it, which, yes, there is the misconception in the media, because if you ever follow a media thread about an immigrant story, there's always commenters that say things like, well, if they just, why don't they just become citizens? Or if they just did things right? Well, if they could, I'm sure that they would, and they would love to. Many of them want to do things right. But as I mentioned before, even for someone who's been here 30 years and has a sparkling clean record, sometimes there is no way to do things right. There is no remedy available. And so I think that if people really sat down to try to decipher the different ways that people can obtain legal status, and if they realized how difficult it was, that maybe, again, they would want to come to the table and have a solution. But people just think, oh, they broke the rules, they didn't do things right, so therefore they deserve whatever punishment is afforded to them, which obviously I disagree with, and that's why I have made it my life's mission, my life's work, to protect the rights of immigrants and help them obtain legal status to remain in the United States. I think that the most important thing, if anybody takes anything away from this documentary, is not only to see immigrants for the humans that we all are, but also to really take the time to educate yourself before you speak on a topic, or before you even develop those strong feelings about a topic that maybe you don't even really understand. Nobody wants people to break the law. That's not what anybody wants. But when we've developed a system that sometimes leaves other people no choice when they're seeking refuge and protection, we need to go back to the drawing board and try to fix that. What can we do to make this system better, to make it something more manageable? Because the laws that the last time that there was really a big overhaul of the immigration system was almost 30 years ago in 1997. And I think that people don't really understand that. I mean, we're operating on an old system with new problems. So we need a new system to address these new challenges and problems that we couldn't have foreseen in 1997. So let's think about how we can solve these with 2021 ideas. I mean, we were able to come up with a vaccine in 6 months. You know, we continue to develop better medicine. We continue to develop better ways for kids to go to college and scholarships, at least in California. Let's do that with the immigration system too. Like, we need to come up with new solutions for new problems that we couldn't have anticipated when Ronald Reagan was president or Bill Clinton with the last sort of big overhaul. And so let's think about how we can all come to the table and present what the needs and the wants are of both sides and come to a compromise so we can finally do something about this.